I got wasted cause I didn't want to deal with myself tonight.
What's poppin'? It's your boy Joey back again with another video. It's been quite a while since I last made a story video. A lot has happened. But this story takes place about a year ago. It features my friends. I'm going to change their names for privacy reasons. My friends Caleb, Chris, and Luke. Now, Caleb calls me up and he goes, "Hey Joey, do you want to go camping with us?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. When are we going?" He goes, "Tomorrow." I'm like, "Okay." Now, I needed at least like a week in advance to start preparing for that. But he's like, no, we'll just go tomorrow. I'm like, "Okay." He goes, I'll be at your house in an hour. I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "I need to pack everything into the trunk so we can, when I pick you up, we can just hit the road." I'm like, "All right, cool." So I start running around my house. I'm grabbing a sleeping bag, clothes, weed. Obviously, gotta have my priorities. So Caleb calls me. He goes, "Hey Joey, do you happen to have like any propane tanks and like a mini barbecue that we can use?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got some of that stuff in the shed." He goes, "Great, can you bring that?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So about 30 minutes later, Caleb pulls up. I start packing everything into the trunk of his car, and he starts to run down like how the whole weekend's gonna go. He's like, "All right, I'm gonna pick you up at 8:30 tomorrow. Make sure to be ready. Chris is already gonna be with me, and then we're gonna drive and pick up Luke." I'm like, "Okay, cool." 8:30 rolls around. Caleb and Chris come and they pick me up, and then we drive over to Luke's place. Now, we start calling and texting Luke a bunch. No answer. 10 minutes goes by, and we keep calling and texting him, still no answer. Eventually, Luke's dad comes out and he goes, "Hey fellas, what are you guys up to this weekend?" We're like, "We're going camping." He's like, "Okay," and we're like, "Is Luke up?" And he's like, "Luke's still asleep." So he goes inside to wake up Luke, and apparently he is unprepared. Nothing is packed. He is not ready at all. So we're sitting outside waiting for Luke to get ready. And Luke's dad comes back out, and he has like this bag of hash brown mix. And he's like, "Hey boys, I don't know what you got planned for breakfast, but I got this hash brown mix. You can mix it into your eggs. It's really good." We're like, "Okay, thank you." Then he whips out 3 ice cream sandwiches. He goes, "Do you boys want an ice cream sandwich?" And we're like, "Yes." So we take one of those, and we're just sitting in the car eating the sandwiches there and just waiting for Luke. Eventually he gets ready, and then we hit the road. We're just sitting there in the car, driving along. We're just talking, cracking jokes, listening to music. We're having a great time. Now, we eventually pull up to the campground, and we start setting everything up. We got the tent. We're putting the camp chairs around the area. And it's about 3 o'clock, and we're like, "Okay, so let's just, let's go for a swim before we eat supper." And we're like, "All right, cool." So the beach was like literally right across from where we were at. We could get there in like 3 seconds. It was right there. So we're standing on the sand there, and we're all daring the other one to go in first. Like, "No, you go, no, you go, no, you go." Eventually we're all just like, "All right, screw it. We're just gonna charge in and hope for the best." So we go into that water, and it is freezing cold. Like, it was really, really cold. So I can only stand that for like 5 minutes. So then I get back in onto the sand. The rest of the guys come in. We're just chilling out. And we're like, "All right, how about we have a race?" So we're drawing a line in the sand, drawing another line in the sand. We're just racing back and forth, just hanging out. Now, Chris brought along a drone. Like one of those like things like, yeah, like just one of those like drone machines. Sometimes security use them, but like a lot of people also buy them and can just fly around their neighborhood with them. So he bought a drone, and we're just messing around with the drone. We're just hanging out, and we're like, "Oh, fly it over here and take a look at the area over there." And we can see like the entire campground through the camera on the drone, and it looked amazing. I was like, "Holy crap, that is awesome." So eventually we start diving into our liquor. Now, I should point out that we had to call like our drinks by like soda names. We had to call like, if you wanted a beer, we're like, "Hey, can you pass me a Coke?" or something like that. Or if you wanted like a seltzer or something like that, we'd be like, "Hey, pass me a Sprite." And my friend Caleb, he had like these beer can holders, and it had like Coca-Cola written on one and Sprite written on another, and it had like the logo. It was really cool. So we're like, okay. So whenever we wanted a drink, we just had to push it into that that can holder. Now, I bought a 12 pack of Budweisers, and I went through like 3 of them. I'm like, man, I should probably slow it down because like I have the 12 pack and want it to last the entire weekend. And Chris is like, no, you can just buy another one. I'm like, yeah, I guess you have a point. So I polished off a 12 pack that night, and I am hammered. Now, Chris looks at me and he goes, hey Joey, do you want to smoke? Now, Chris rarely smokes, and I mean like rarely smokes. He told me one time, he goes, yeah, I smoked like once or twice, I didn't really like it. I didn't believe him. I'm like, yeah, that's bullcrap, I don't believe you at all. And so at this point, he says, Joey, do you want to smoke? And I'm like, smoke? Like, you and me smoke? And he's like, yeah, sure, we'll spark a bowl right now. I'm like, yes. So I pack him this monster bowl with the pipe there, and he's just sitting there hitting that. We're just hanging out. I'm laughing at this because it never happens. So I'm like, yes, this is awesome. Because you always want to smoke with the friends that like never smoke at all. It's like a rite of passage or something like that. But I was so excited when he did that finally. So at this point, we're all fucked up. It's like 1 in the morning. So we go onto the beach and we're just walking across the sand there, just talking. And I start to lose my balance at this point. So I'm stumbling around like a friggin' idiot. And I trip on a rock and fall into a giant puddle. So now my back is completely soaked. Then Chris tries to help me up. So he pulls me up, and I'm so fucked up at this point that like I can't stand. So he picks me up and carries me like a baby. And he goes, you're my baby boy. And I'm fucked up, so I'm just like, fuck it, I'm your baby boy. And then he just tosses me back in the sand. I was like, you asshole. But so I try to stand up, and I'm barely have any balance. So I just continue walking along with them. I trip on another rock and step in a puddle, and now my shoes are soaked. So I'm like, ah, god damn it. So eventually we get to a point where Chris is like, I'm gonna run into that ocean right there. I'm like, dude, that's a terrible idea. Do it right now. I'm like, no, that's not what I actually said. But I was like, dude, that's a terrible idea. It's freezing. It's a bad idea. He goes, no, I can do it. I'm like, all right, screw it, go ahead. So he charges into the water. 3 seconds later, he comes screaming back in. Fuck that, that's too cold. I am on the ground laughing my ass off at that point. Eventually we come across like some seaweed. And so Chris is like, can you eat seaweed? I'm like, I'm pretty sure you can't eat seaweed. And then he takes out his phone, looks it up, and he goes, yeah, it says here that you can eat seaweed. I'm like, you're gonna trust Google? But okay. So he freaking takes the seaweed, takes a bite, starts chewing on it. I'm like, how's it taste? He's like, salty. I'm like, no shit. So we eventually fall asleep, and I wake up the next morning with a crazy hangover. So I wake up and I'm freezing cold because I apparently was wearing the same clothes that I wore that night, and they were still wet from the puddle. So I'm freezing cold, and it's like 6 in the morning. So I step outside, and I'm just sitting in my camp chair, and I have like my towel wrapped around me. I'm trying to warm up as best I can. Eventually, like you can see the sun start to rise at that point. So I go over to this bench near the beach. So I'm just sitting on the bench. I'm just looking at the sunrise, and I'm just like trying to warm up. And I'm like, geez, this is really cool here, and it's really nice, just a quiet moment. Now, that was just the first night of the camping trip. If you want to know what happened in the second night, you're gonna have to wait for part 2. That's right, this is going to be a 2-part story video. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Now, my friends will probably see this video and be like, hey, you left out this part. Well, this is just what I remember from that night. You drink a 12-pack, you're not going to remember shit. But this is just what I remember from the first night. But if you want to see what happened the second night, make sure to stick around and wait for part 2. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to smash the crap out of the like button. It really helps out what I'm trying to do. When I started, was it's still kind of small right now, but I was able to get a few more subscribers, and just any little amount of subscribers just makes me happy, because it lets me know that, okay, I'm doing good right now. I'm doing my best here, and one day it's going to get extremely higher than that. I'm going to have many more subscribers. I'm going to have better equipment to record with, and I'm just going to someday reach the top. And it may be difficult now, but I'm just going to keep going. And whenever I see the new subscribers and the new views, comments, it lets me know that I'm doing all right with this. So it means everything to me. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to know when I'm uploading next. And if you like the content, make sure to take a look at some of the other videos. I got plenty of other funny story videos. I got tons of Let's Plays from Assassin's Creed, Batman. I got Deadpool. It's all good stuff. Once again, I'll say thank you, and I'll see you guys for part 2.